guess what? You don't own your Switch. I mean, sort of, kind of, like, yes, but no. In all practicality, you don't really own your Switch. This was something that was kind of brought to my attention. I've been doing a lot of videos, as you're probably aware, on the Nintendo situation right now, where they're saying they can brick your console, and they're suing the shit out of Power World, and blah, blah, blah. And one of the comments I received on one of the videos was that they had just outright stated, specifically that Doug Bowser had outright stated, that you don't actually own your Switch. You just own a license to your Switch. And I was like, okay, that's fucking crazy. If that is the case, I definitely want to do a video on that because I have some thoughts. But I wanted to actually find where he said that, and I wanted to find where in the EULA that it said that you do not own your Switch. And I came to the conclusion that that is not true. Like, I could not find anywhere in the EULA that said you do not own your Switch. That you're just licensed your Switch. So I actually ended up putting out a short that said, no, Nintendo didn't actually say that. That just seems to be a misinterpretation of some of the other stuff you said. And I got a lot of comments that were, like, very adamant, like, no, it is in there in the EULA. It's there. It's actually there. So I went back and checked again, and I checked with more broad-reaching eyes. Like, I checked not specifically for them to say, you don't own your console, you're licensed your console, and really for them to say something that would basically be saying you don't own your console, you just license your console. And I found it. Right here's where it says it. This is the Singapore one. So here's where it says it. I accidentally pulled up the Singapore one. That's my bad. Here's where it says it. License grant restrictions. Subject to the terms of this agreement, you may use the software, content, and data that came with the console or that is compatible with or authorized for use in connection therewith, including any updates or replacements to that software, content, or data that we are authorized providers make available to you. Collectively, the software. The software is licensed, not sold, to use solely for your personal, non-commercial use on the console. What that basically says is you do own your console. Okay, let me make this very clear. I've seen nothing so far that says your console is licensed to you. But the software that makes the console work is licensed to you, and they can revoke that at any time, which would basically make your console not work. But you still own your console. You just can't use it at all if they decide they want to revoke that license. That, to me, one, seems like some sort of shady way to get around some law, probably, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Don't like, whatever. It seems like either like a shady way to get around a law that says you can't license equipment like that, or you'd have to be more clear about it. Or at the very least, an excuse to not give you a refund. If you buy your Switch and then they terminate your license to the software, you still have your Switch. That's what you bought. They're just not letting you use the license. Or maybe it's just the way that they have to word it because that's how they want to word it or whatever. I don't know. Either way, they have basically said the very thing that makes this device function, the very purpose of this device is not something you own, and that is insane to me. And I gotta imagine that will not hold up to law if, like, questioned really hardcore. But they also have the non-arbitration, or the no lawsuit clause, the arbitration clause. I'm not going to go over all of that because it's really big, but it's subsection 7. Why did I do that in the hardest way possible? It's subsection 7 here, which is dispute resolution, binding individual arbitration clause, class action waiver, which basically says, in a lot of words, that you agree that you will not enter into a lawsuit or a class action lawsuit against Nintendo. You have to go through individual arbitration. Historically, I believe that these things can be overturned if they're found to be violating consumer rights laws. which I feel like in America it would end up getting overturned because a lot of the stuff they're doing kind of flies in the face of some of our laws, I would hope. But it seems like this is their way to get around that. This is their way to get around the license might be their way to get around certain laws, and the individual arbitration clause is their way to really strong arm you into saying, listen, you're not going to win this, so just accept the fact that you gave us $450 and we're sold a brick. Eat a dick. That appears to be what that is. And I thought, like, morally, ethically, logically, it seems to me that you should not be allowed to enforce an agreement on someone. And this also, the fact that it's agreeing to the software license and not the console being licensed seems like it might also be a way to get around this, because it seems to me that you should not be allowed to enforce an agreement on someone about a product that you bought after the purchase of that product. But if what they are just selling you is the device and not technically the software, then they can enforce the agreement on you. They give you the device, you pay, you get the device, and they can enforce the agreement on you to access the software on the device. But that also just seems to fly in the face of logic with me. And it feels like if you got them in front of a jury, that the jury would be like, and they try to say, oh, well, what we sold them was the device. We didn't sell them the software on the device. So technically, the software is just something we're giving them for free, and we have the right to take that back whenever we want. That seems like it wouldn't stand up to a jury. But again, you waive your right to a lawsuit. But it just seems to me like that's not something you should be allowed to do. And since the function of the device itself is to access the software, that is the purpose of the device, is to access that software that allows the device to run. That seems like it really would not hold up. It really does not make any sense that they think that this is something they can enforce, and they're just doing bullying tactics and throwing in all this extra stuff. And to be fair, arbitration clauses are like true in every single like business. They all seem to have an arbitration clause, but those arbitration clauses can be overturned by a judge if you're found to be like breaking consumer rights. I at one point went on the like Nextdoor neighborhood app and threatened to sue my local. Like I didn't even threaten to sue. I just like made a post like saying, "Who wants to do a class action lawsuit against our cable company because our local internet company because they suck and they're not providing anything that they're saying they're providing." And 1,000 people came to me and were like, a bunch of people commented, like, well, technically you signed an anti-arbitration clause. But you know what also happened? The internet provider actually reached out to me and said, hey, we're here, you're having some issues. We would really like to help. Because I feel like they might know that eventually that clause will be overturned. Either way, it doesn't matter. This seems like just a bunch of ways to try to get around that would not hold up to really any amount of scrutiny, because any logical person, a logical consumer, a 100% logical, reasonable consumer would see the buying of the device as the purchasing, or at least the permanent purchasing, the permanent use of the software on the device that is designed to make that work. If the device cannot work without the software, then buying the device seems to be buying the right to use the software, not just like a license that can be revoked at any given time. So not having to sign, if Nintendo made it so that every time you went to buy a Switch, you had to sign this agreement prior to buying the Switch, maybe it would hold up a little bit better. But I, to my knowledge, have never had or seen someone have to sign a EULA before buying a console. Maybe it's just something small. Maybe it's just something like oh, when you click this little button on the credit card read area, it my God, the point of sale terminal, you are agreeing to this thing. One, I think that's shady as hell. I think if you're signing an EULA that can effectively and very functionally impact your ability to use the thing you're buying, I don't think it should be able to be something that's like, oh yeah, just sign right here and you're good. I think it should have to be clearly laid out legally. Unfortunately, that doesn't really seem to be the case. I just think it should be something where it has to be like bold print, obvious, this is what you are signing. You agree to this. But to my knowledge, that's never something you have to do. So, what did I do? Or what am I about to do and show you? Here's the Nintendo website. Because, I don't remember you ever having to sign an EULA before buying a device. Before buying a console. Here's the Nintendo website. This is for the Nintendo Switch Neon Blue, Neon Red Joy-Con. Add to cart. View cart and check out. Log in to check out. Notice at no point, I'm going to go back real quick to show. At no point has, in the obvious buying of this product, there been an EULA that says anything. I'm going to remove this. I'm not actually going to buy this. Log in to check out. Sign into my account. There. I am signed in to my account. Didn't see shit. To secure checkout. Again, I have to type in my password. Okay, so I had to switch to incognito mode because apparently when I was not in incognito mode, it wasn't working. It wasn't letting me actually go any further than the cart part for some reason. After I backspaced. And now I'm re-recording this because I forgot to switch over my screen capture to the incognito window as opposed to the main window. But here we go. Go to the Nintendo store. And all this is just to show that at no point in the buying of the Switch am I going to sign an EULA. Go to the Nintendo store. Select the device. No EULA. If I scroll down here, guess what? No EULA. So even if I tried to do that due diligence of seeing, oh, is there some weird agreement in their description of the device? There's not one. Add to cart. View cart and check out. Log in to check out. No point have I had to sign an EULA. Sign in. Okay, signing in. Takes me back to the cart. No EULA. Has 2 in the list right now. Again, Mammoth black screen, this part right here that has the thing. I get to shipping. No EULA. Mammoth definitely black screen this. I get all the way to the point where it will let me pay for this device, and it still does not have me sign an EULA. So they're basically not making you sign an EULA to buy the device, but then after you buy the device, you now have to sign an EULA that says you basically don't own this device. You own the physical hardware that you are holding in your hand, but the right to use that hardware in the way that is intended, you do not own. So that's pretty shady, right? How can Nintendo do this? How can Nintendo be so shady as to pull this shit? So I went and checked. They are not the only ones. Xbox is EULA. The Xbox software is licensed to you, not sold. You are licensed to use the Xbox software only as pre-installed in your Xbox console or authorized accessory and updated by Microsoft from time to time. You may not copy or reverse engineer the Xbox software. As conditions to this Xbox software license, you agree that you will not use unauthorized access or unauthorized games. They may not work or may stop working permanently after an Xbox software update. You will not use or install any unauthorized software. If you do, your Xbox console Connect sensor or authorized accessory may stop working permanently at that time or after a later Xbox software update. So, they also have the right to brick your fucking console. You will not attempt to defeat or circumvent any Xbox console, Connect sensor, or authorized accessory, technical limitations, security, or anti-piracy system. If you do, your Xbox console, Connect sensor, or authorized accessory may stop working permanently at the time or after a later Xbox software update. They will brick your console. Microsoft may use technical measures, including Xbox software updates, to prevent use of unauthorized accessories and unauthorized games, and to protect the technical limitations, security, and anti-piracy systems in your Xbox console Nexus or authorized accessory. They will brick your console. Microsoft may update the Xbox software from time to time without further notice to you, for example, to update any technical limitation, security, or anti-piracy system. They will update this at any time to brick your console. But who else does this? PlayStation does this. Now, PlayStation doesn't have an EULA. I looked for it several times, and if you type in PlayStation EULA and you click this part right here where it says PS5 EULA, and then that says PlayStation 5 EULA, it's a system software license agreement, which just seems even more like specifically saying, yeah, you don't own the software. License grant. Subject to this agreement's terms, SIE Inc. grants you non-exclusive, non-commercial rights to use system software solely on your PS5 system. Your rights to use previous versions of system software other than the current version of system software terminates as soon as you can receive or have the most current version of system software installed on your PS5 system. Certain license agreements, which also means they could just kind of update your end-user license agreement, or your SSLA this time, at any time, and you just have to eat a dick and accept it. Certain license terms for SIE Inc. licensed third-party software or service may require that SIE Inc. provides you with notices and license terms for that third-party software or service. These notices and license terms are available to you at this or any other place which SIE thinks appropriate. All rights to use system software are granted by license only, and you are not granted any ownership rights or interest in system software. SIE Inc. and its licensors retain all intellectual property rights in system software. All use of or access to system software is subject to this agreement's term, and applicable intellectual properties except as this agreement expressly grants. SIE Inc. and its licensors reserves all rights in system software. Right there, it's saying that they can revoke your right to use the software that makes your PlayStation function at any time they want. Retains all intellectual property rights in system software. All use or access to system software is subject to this agreement's term and applicable intellectual property laws, which means they could just revoke it. And then here, restrictions: you may not lease, rent, sub-license, publish, modify, patch, adapt, or translate system software. You may not reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble system software, create system software derivative works, or attempt to create system software source code from subject code. You may not use any unauthorized, illegal, counterfeit, or modified hardware or software with system. Use tools to bypass, disable, or circumvent any PS5 system encryption, security, or authentication mechanism. Reinstall earlier versions of the system software. Violate any laws, regulations, or statutes or rights of SIE Inc. or third parties in connection with your access to use for system software. Use any hardware, software to cause system software to accept or use any unauthorized, illegal, or pirated software or hardware. Obtain system software in any manner other than through SIE Inc.'s authorized distribution methods. Exploit system software in any manner other than to use it with your PS5 system according to the accompanying documentation and with authorized system or hardware, including use of system software designed, develop, update, or distribute unauthorized software or hardware for use in connection with your PS5 system. These restrictions will be construed to apply to the greatest extent permitted by laws in your jurisdiction. And I think they had a... Here it goes. Violation of agreement, termination of rights, and SIE Inc. remedies. If SIE determines that you have violated this agreement's terms, SIE Inc. may itself or may procure the taking of any action to protect its interests, such as disabling access to use of some or all of system software. We will brick your device. Disabling use of this PS5 system online or offline. We will brick your device even offline. Termination of your access to PlayStation Network. Denial of any warranty, repair, or other services provided for your PS5 system. Implementation of automatic or mandatory updates or devices intended to discontinue unauthorized use. We will brick your device. Or reliance on any other remedial efforts as reasonably necessary to prevent the use of modified or unpermitted use of system software. SIE Inc. and its affiliates and licensors reserve the right to bring legal action in the event of a violation of this agreement, as they will sue you after they brick your device. SIE Inc. may participate in governmental or private legal action or investigation relating to your system software. The other two ones do it too. And that is not to justify Nintendo's doing it. That is to say, what the fuck is going on with our world that all these big companies are just saying you don't own your shit. It's insane. And here's the thing. I'm gonna real quick show that like also you don't have to... Whoops, that's the wrong one. You don't have to sign an EULA when you buy the device. Buy. Check out. Hold on, let me double check what that said. Okay, this is... Yeah. I've not bought an Xbox in a while. Remove. I don't want to. God, what am I... I'm going to check it as a guest. This one lets you check it as a guest. Mammoth, you know what to do. Black this out. You just, and again, with all these, you just have to black out the part where it's reading my password in my email. Next. So I got to this point. I I put in, input my address. At no point whether this is an EULA. Next, I'm going to payment. They want my cardholder name. I'm not going to input any of this shit because I'm not going to let them actually Actually, I can't. I can do it with here. Okay, hold on. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to accidentally buy this. But again, at no point up until this point have they had me sign an EULA. Let's go to PlayStation. Buy now. Model Group Slim. Add. Actually, okay, here's some additional terms. Let's see what the additional terms are. It definitely tells you right here to always update your PS5 system to the most recent version. That will allow them to brick your hard drive, brick your device. Design and specifications are subject to change without notice. They can change whatever they want without telling you about it. Here's the one thing this one actually tells you right out, though. Online features may be terminated at any time. So they do let you know that. They don't let you know. There you go. It does say right here. Okay, software subject to license and limited warranty. So if you go through all these different steps, if you get to this point, you scroll to here, and you say, see additional terms. And remember, hold on, I'm going to refresh right here. You say, see additional terms. You click that button, which most people aren't going to do, and then you read this. Then and only then will you notice that you might need to read this and figure out that, hey, there is an EULA. And I believe I had to click a different button to do that, but it's just not having me do it this time. Then and only then will it tell you, like, hey, if you actually read this in depth, you don't own this shit you're buying here. That is the only way. So I'm not even going to have to go forward. Well, I'm going to go see if it becomes more obvious. I'm going to see, because these are the only ones that have made it even there. Let's see if they at some point actually have me read it. Nope. Check out. Nope. Okay. Continue to payment. Get to this point. At no point has it actually compelled me to read the EULA. I had to go out of my way to get it onto the website. Get it on the website. So, none of these things, none of these companies require you to read the EULA before buying the device. But the EULA functionally impacts your ability to utilize the device in the intended way. It functionally impacts your ability to use the device the way the device is intended to be used, which is accessing the software. Now, they can go ahead and say that, oh, it's not the intended way to be used because it only impacts you if you're modifying the stuff. But we've seen, like, in my previous videos, I discuss how vague those terms are, where they can kind of brick it for whatever reason. It flies in the face of, like, right to repair and all the laws that say, yeah, no, you can modify your device and they can't do anything about it. I fully support them not honoring a warranty if you modify your device. If you open up, like, your Switch or your Xbox or your PlayStation and you start futzing around with the stuff inside and it breaks the PlayStation and they're like, yeah, we're not gonna replace that for you. You broke that. I fully support that because you broke that. You did that to you. But the fact that they can just say, oh, we're going to make your device non-functional because of that is insane. The fact that you don't have to agree to the EULA before buying the device and they're just retroactively like, yeah, if you actually want to use this device, you have to sign the EULA. And the EULA lets us tell you, no, you can't use this device, is insane. I'm okay with them standing up for, like, or them trying anti-piracy stuff. If them including some level of anti-piracy stuff in the event that that anti-piracy stuff is how much I can make. Not a lot of cake, never mind. I have a lot of wheat. In the event that their anti-piracy checks are very thorough, that they give you a chance to appeal, and that they don't make your device non-functional. If they want to stop you from accessing their online services because you pirated a thing, because I've said before, I am against piracy, and you can believe that piracy isn't technically theft or whatever, but legally, yes, legally it flies in the face of criminal copyright law. It flies in the face of criminal copyright law. So if you want to believe morally that's not theft, that's up to you. I am anti-piracy. I believe creators deserve to get paid for the work that they're making, and just because you weren't going to buy it anyways doesn't really change that. But if they wanted to implement anti-piracy measures and just say you can't access our online services because of this, I'm fine with that. Stopping you, one, saying you pirated a device and we're going to brick your device. You pirated a game and we're going to brick your device so that you can't even use it offline. Absolutely not. And then saying, if you modify your device, and a lot of the wording was like, oh, if you modify your device to circumvent these terms, then we'll do it. But some of it, especially with the Nintendo side, was just, if you modify your device, if you do anything to modify your device, we will brick your system, is not okay. That is insane, and I cannot believe how corrupt these companies are getting and how much they're getting away with, and they're trying to get away with, and there needs to, like, legislators need to put into law that you cannot, because a lot of the stuff won't stand up. Like, a good bit of the stuff, like, will probably not stand up to court if it gets taken to court. But they have the anti-arbitration clause to try to stop you from taking it to court, but you can still take it to court and get a judge to overturn the anti-arbitration clause, but that just adds more money on the consumer end, and they're banking on you not having that money, or not having the energy, or having the time. It needs to be codified in law that companies cannot put something in the EULA that is not legal, because it tricks consumers into believing that it is legal, and it tricks consumers into believing that they don't have certain rights. Companies should not legally be allowed to throw something into an EULA if it is not something that is legally enforceable. And they should be severely punished, severely fined if they do so. But, yeah, that's that. You don't own your device. You kind of do, but not really, not practically, not functionally. You only own the hardware. You don't own the ability to make that hardware work. That's where we're at. If you don't know, I'm so tired of this shit. If you don't know, I have a Change.org petition going on that is stop the abuse and misuse of patent law by video game developers. I'll link it in the description. It'll also be linked like somewhere over there. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Turn on notifications, please. Only 3% of my subscribers have notifications turned on. And comment, your thoughts on this. Comment any other videos. Please, actually, comment any other things that I might not be talking about right now that you'd be interested in hearing me, like, research and talk about, because I'm looking for new ideas, because I really don't want to keep doing Nintendo stuff, but Nintendo keeps doing things, and in this case, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, and probably a lot more people keeps doing things. And yeah, have a nice day.